Thanks for inviting me on to give this kind of talk. Thanks everyone for joining. I've done up a PowerPoint here just of different things I'm going to go through, which in relation to question 1 and question 5. Now, I selected these two because we know that there's going to be 2 question 1s on the paper in the summer, and question 5 is going to be interpretation of accounts. Just to start there, just as Rachel mentioned, I have a couple of websites. So got my accounting website there. It's got a lot of resources that I've linked this PowerPoint to. So I'm going to be showing you a good few resources that I use on this. And then my Twitter account, I have a YouTube channel then as well. And then other websites that are kind of linked to business. So kind of my junior cycle one, I've one for Leaving Cert, and I've one down for additional resources that I put information on as well. So just the structure of this talk. So just I've a link done up and I put it on Twitter yesterday, just the examination documents, just a couple of changes in that. And with mocks coming up, I've put up edible ones for the additional stationery and also one for the booklet as well. I'm going to go through my teaching strategy that I use to teach in the classroom, and then just the resources for question 1 and 5. And then for myself as teaching, I find student feedback really important. So I'll just kind of go through what I do with that one itself. So just for yourselves, just updates for, I suppose this is kind of the higher level paper, that there's 2 question 1s from sole trader company and manufacturing company accounts. And question 5 will be the interpretation of accounts for June. And then just examination timing. So with that then, up on my website, I kind of got a page for higher and ordinary level. And I've put in kind of the timing for kind of a suggested timing approach for the questions for higher and ordinary. The circular there that was out in 2018 in relation to the changes for the booklet and the stationery then kind of came in last year. So there's edible documents there that if you click into it, you can kind of print them off, and if you want to use them for the mocks, then you can. I don't know if there's any companies out there doing that at the moment. And then I've got one then for, for the stationery then as well. You can print that off, kind of the booklet, the additional paper that they can get. That's kind of for the tabular statement. So I'm kind of asking mine if they want to do the question 1 on it, they can. And the question 9, if they're going to answer like the budget question, they can use that for it as well. And then my teaching style, I kind of use this approach. So it's kind of 5 steps towards it. So I kind of explain what we're going to do in class, kind of linking to the learning outcomes, kind of demonstrate it on the board. We do it together. I provide support then with the documents that I've up on my website, and they work themselves independently. So we kind of try that for all the questions that are on the course. So I gave a talk in 2019, kind of explaining how I use that and kind of looking at higher and ordinary accounting level students in the same class, and kind of a structure and how to kind of teach that, because I find that very difficult. And I have a link to that there that if you go to the PowerPoint and just click on that later on in your own time, you kind of got access to that, those PowerPoints as well. I've got some feedback from the students in relation to each one of these topics. So in relation to the teaching style that I have, I kind of got some of them to just record how they find my teaching style, how they find question 1, how they find question 5, and how they find the feedback. So just for yourself, just to see what they think about the teaching style that I use. This is one of the students talking about it.
I think Mr. Ryan's teaching method is well thought out and well executed. His method of doing adjustments in class and repeating them in different accounts at home helped me to learn these adjustments easily and efficiently. The website he created assists the class with guided tutorials of accounts and extra notes of each chapter. I find these helpful when doing revision.
So with that, the teaching style, the support and that sort of stuff, that's what I'm going to look at with the website and independent learning. And together kind of came from that kind of BSTAI and feedback come from teachers that even they would like kind of a website that they could look at for kind of different questions and that. And I suppose from my background, I didn't study accounting in 6th year. So I got my accounting kind of through first year and second year in college. So I kind of had to teach myself kind of the course. And I remember the first time that I came out and I got a higher level, leaving cert class and staying up until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning trying to figure out one question. I found it really, really hard and really challenging. So when I come to a question 1, when I'm planning it, I'll usually get the students to look at the layout of a sole trader first. And I put this up on the website. So with the sole trader for the profit and loss account, I kind of have a sample one done up here for them that they download. Any extra items along the side or additional information they can write into it. And then I've tried to color coordinate it. So one night I'll get them to learn the trading account. Next night, get them to learn the profit and loss account. Next night, get them to learn the operating income and then the operating profit. And just kind of link it up to kind of color coordinate it and break it down into small little steps. And then the weekend, they get to kind of put it together. I've done the same then for the layout of the company account as well. So the same thing a week or so before, I'll get them to learn this themselves. So it's color coordinated again. So they'll write it out. One night they'll learn the trading account, next the profit and loss, next the operating income. And then if there's any additional information that they need to add, they can add in the handout. And then they kind of have a 1-page item that they can go back and revise on it. In class then, when I'm explaining it, I kind of go through the work examples. So I go through the examples in class, kind of put them up on the board, working through them slowly. And then homework, this is something that I got the last, I think it was at the chairperson's, the BSTAI chairperson's talk. Somebody was talking about must, should, and could. And they kind of explained it really well. And I started to use that in all my classes. So this is something that I've started to do with them as part of the revision. So they must revise what we did in the day and write up the steps involved in the adjustment. So they kind of got their success criteria. They should write down any difficulties that they have and ask in the next class or send it to me in questions in chat in Teams. So some students don't like asking the questions. So I give them the opportunity to send a question to me in chat. So then I can start the class and the next day answering those questions. So they don't, no one in class knows that they asked that question itself. And then they could find a similar adjustment from a past exam paper. Now this helps with differentiation. I only give them 20 minutes homework a night, and this helps them with differentiation. They can get as far as they want with it themselves. Then when we come to the exam questions then, so we work through a past exam question, use the support of the following material. So I'll always give them the question, the answer, and my adjustments. So I'll print them off and I'll give it to them. I'll have tutorial videos up online from that they can look back at. And then I started doing these support material QR codes and material with step-by-step. So up on the website, if it loads for me, I will have sole traders. So these are the past sole traders for the past.
Sorry, Jason, when you click on a link, it's not sharing. Your screen is not sharing.
It's not sharing,
so
is it not?
I think you're just sharing the one tab. So I think you need to share your whole screen for that to work.
I think, yeah. 1 second now. Can you see it now?
Yeah, we can now. Yeah. Thank you.
So on this website, so this is the website I've created. So I'll have all the past tabs for all the sole trader questions for past papers. And then I've some up then for DEB as well. So in here then, if they click into A. Kenny from last year, they'll have the question, they'll have my worked examples, and they'll have the marking scheme. Now I started to do these QR codes with them. So I'll hand this out to them as well. And what happens is that I've got each adjustment and this QR code, that if they scan it, it'll take them to a video that's explaining how to do that adjustment. It's something that I started this year. Because of the videos done up, it doesn't take that long to do it. It takes longer if I don't have the videos done up for the question. So it's kind of like a step-by-step approach for me. But they found this very helpful, kind of the steps that are involved with this adjustment and where it goes then as well. And then if they're finding problems, then they can just scan this code on their phone, have a listen to a 3-4 minute video, and then hopefully they'll be able to answer the question on that then. Other items that I have, so I've got the videos then for each one there that you can click into when we're doing it. And then this year I kind of started doing a step-by-step approach to them. It's a little bit like the QR codes that they have, but the adjustments are done on one page. And what I got them to do was I printed this out for them, and then they kind of, each page, there'll be 3 columns. So they'll kind of cut down along here. So they'll have a stack of adjustments. They'll have a stack of how to complete the adjustment. And then they'll have a stack then of where it goes. And if they match up the correct items. So they'll mix them all up, pass them to another group, and then they'll put them all out on the table. And then for the closing stock adjustment, they'll have to find the correct one that says how to complete the adjustment, and then where it goes in the accounts. And kind of started that this year with them. Some of them liked it. Some of them like just having the document as a support. Some of them liked having the matching game as well. So it varies it. And then with revision, so I'm kind of doing revision with them this year. So 6 years at the moment, looking at, once again, using the website. But what I did for them is I did an analysis of the year that the sole trader come up, the company manufacturing come up, and the company. So what year come up, and then link then into each adjustment that come up first. So I'll print this off and give it to them. And I think it's 3 pages of the adjustments that come up, so they can look and see what are the important ones that I need to know for it. And just by glancing, you can see here depreciation of vehicle has come up a good bit on both sole trader and company manufacturing. Depreciation of buildings seems to come up for sole traders. So they can make sure that those 6, 7 adjustments that come up all the time, that they know it inside out. Now I tried to link them to the matching game, but the links just aren't working at the moment. But they find that very helpful because you can see which ones come up last year. And these links here link to my videos that I have as well, so they can click on it and see the video. And then I did a booklet up for them. All these once again are on the website. So this booklet's got all the adjustments on it. So you'll see that it's past exam papers for all the sole traders and for the DEB as well. And on them then they'll have the exam paper, they'll have the suggested solution, suggested solution of the marking scheme. Then they'll have my workings as well as part of that document. So they can have a 1 page, a 1 booklet that they can use for us. So kind of do it up, print it off 2 pages on one and do it back to back, and I kind of condense it down from. And they find that one very beneficial as well this year. And then, so the teaching style then, so you can see kind of, especially down in here, independent support and together, a lot of that's going on in the class at the moment. So I've given them that booklet. They select whatever question they want to do. They've got everything there that they need to do it. And then I'll go around individually and see if they need any help or if there's any adjustments that they don't like or can't do. And then if there's any adjustments then that they're having difficulty with, and all of them are having it, then I'll do it up on the board then after that. And then this is just some feedback then from one of the students on question 1.
On his website, he compiles all of the past paper accounts and offers an analysis of each type of account. His simple layouts are helpful when doing revision to make sure you have everything included. I found his additional videos on each adjustment helpful, as I found the suspense adjustment difficult. In class, he offers support to anyone finding difficulty with the harder accounts.
So that's question 1. I don't know if you have any questions in relation to that coming in, Rachel, for question 1.
It's just one, can we assume / presume departmental will not appear as question 1 in higher level, but I don't know if that's something you want to go into.
I know all documentation that's coming out have just mentioned those 3 accounts for question 1.
Yeah.
That's all that I can say. And, I'd probably cover it. It's only come up once as a 60 marker and once as a past mock paper, but I'll be covering it just in case it does come up as a 60 marker.
Yeah. I wouldn't take the chance.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's the only one that I can see in there at the moment. You're good to go.
Okay. All right. So question 5 then. So this is kind of start a new approach to this with question 5. So what I did first with them is that we kind of looked at the part A of all the past exam questions, and I got them to fill in a document of the formulas that were asked. So a bit like KWL. So what we know now, what we want to know, and what we want to learn. So the completed sheet will look something like this. So we just look at part A. So in class, this is all blank for them. So we do it up in an Excel spreadsheet and we do it together. We might want to kind of get 3 years done. And the next day when we come in, then I'll show them this, and I'll show them the main type of questions or formulas that have come up as part 1. And I'll always say there's always going to be either a cash sales, a cash purchases, or open and closing stock in the adjustment somewhere with it. So they can see the main ones that come up. So P ratio has come up a good bit in part 1. The internet cover or the interest cover has come up a good bit as well. Dividend yield has come up a good bit. So they can see the main ones that they need to know. From that then in class, we'll start answering them, those questions or those formulas. So I've done up a couple of templates for them. This one was kind of a hit and miss this year. So what I got them to do was I got them to divide a A4 sheet of paper into 3 columns. And one will have the ratio, second will have the formula, and the third will have a comment that I'll give them. But it was kind of taking a little bit too long to do it in class and it's taking up too much time. So I did up this template instead. So as we come across a formula in the exam paper, they'll have this template and then they just write the formula in the box provided for them. And then there's a comment at the side to help them comment on it or to understand what the ratio means. So I'll give that to them when we're doing it. The completed template then, it's up on the website, so it looks something like this. If they're missing a day, I know this year with students being in and out and that I share enough resources up on Teams, so I'd put a kind of a finished one up there for them, so it didn't matter if they're out that day, they still had a source for the formulas. I did up a matching game then in Quizlet for them to help them with it. So they'll have flashcards, learn, write, spell, test, match, and gravity. So they could do that as part of their must, could, should when I get them to learn the formulas. That could be one section that they could look at, select themselves. With the completed game, then they can also kind of cut these up as well. So they kind of have matched the return on capital employed with the formula, kind of have them color coordinated as well to kind of help them to match them up, make it a little bit easier for them at the start. And then kind of they can take the color coordinated off themselves and do up another one to make it more challenging for them once they know what the formulas are. And then the ratio videos, I kind of copied these from YouTube and I put them up on the website as well. So they'll have all the majority of the ratios that they need to know, but it coming from someone else's point of view and explaining for them. So it's not my kind of, I keep on saying, especially my business students, I kind of record MP3 files for them. And it's usually my kind of bogger accent talking to them, so they probably don't listen to it that much. So the same again, kind of the teaching strategy, must, could, should. So revise what we did in today's class. That should be learn the formulas, look at previous exam questions and solutions, and then could attempt to answer a past exam question if they feel up to it. So they'll have loads of resources there to help them learn the formulas, from doing the matching game on Quizlet to tearing up the strips of paper on that kind of that template and having a card game to use themselves as well. So it should kind of help them retain the formulas. Then for part B then, same again. So the analysis sheet for part B, look at the same questions that have come up over and over again. So once they know these questions, the EPS and the DPS, they know it's going to be asked in the paper. And then that there's a link over then with the interest cover and the interest cover down here, the dividend yield and the dividend yield for part A. So it's only like kind of 10, 12 formulas that they need to know that come up all the time. And it kind of helps them a little bit to kind of say, well, this is when it comes up and when we need it. And then at the top of the page, then I have from the shareholder's point of view, debentures, bank manager, investor, and friend. And then they're the formulas that you need to comment on whichever one you're asked. And I have another document enough for that as well. It's a little bit clearer, but you can see then when they were asked, so the shareholders, the debentures, the bank managers, the investor and the friend, when they were asked each year as well. So they kind of have a good idea of what forms they need to know. And then this is the template then that I did up for debenture holders. So this is from the debenture holders point of view. So under preference, state of affairs and prospects, the headings they need is profitability and the two formulas that they need. The dividend policy and the two formulas. You got your liquidity, your gearing, I put three formulas there, and then the sector that they're in. They came up with this mnemonic. So Patricia Doyle loves grading in school to try to remember what the headings are. So profitability, dividend policy, liquidity, gearing. In is for interest cover, and then S is for sector. So try to get them to remember what the headings are. And then for each one then, so I went back over past exam papers, and anything that's in bold seems to be the same piece of information that you need to know on the exam paper. So it said that's the stuff that you need to learn off. And then in this box here, I kind of come up with 5 things that you need to say. So for the return on capital employed, say what you see compared to 2 years. The key words that they seem to be looking for now are kind of satisfied, dissatisfied, improvement, disimprovement, and positivity, positive and negative trend. They seem to be the buzzwords. It used to be kind of like increase and decrease and healthy and unhealthy, but they seem to be changing around. So I make sure that they're in there somewhere. Say if the company is profitable compared to risk-free investments, compared to the debenture and preferential rates, and would shareholders be happy or would they be satisfied or dissatisfied? So this little box kind of is a guide to what to write about. And then what's in bold then is kind of what they need to learn off and regurgitate back as part of the exam. So I've done that for all of their comments down along. So they have a sheet there to help them with the comments. And then we did one today and they just took this out. The ones that they remembered, they wrote it down. And then anything that they left out, then they highlighted it then. And that's what they need to learn as part of their homework. So I think sometimes students like going over stuff that they know all the time, but not identifying the kind of the gaps or what they don't know and using their study to learn that instead. So kind of the highlighters are out today doing that. And then for part C then, which is a theory part, I did up a theory booklet that I kind of handed out to them. I'm kind of starting to do this for each of the topics, just to going back on the past theory for each chapter or each question, putting it into a document. So you'll have the questions and then underneath it, then they'll have the answers so they can learn it off at home or as part of study or whatever way they feel happy with doing it themselves. The class at the moment kind of doing revision at the moment, so everybody is doing what they feel comfortable with. So today's class, some people are doing company accounts, some are doing incomplete records, some are doing ratios, some are doing tabulars, some are learning this stuff off. So kind of really differentiate a classroom, and then they have the support then on the website if they need any question. And I kind of go around the classroom, seeing if they have any questions themselves and do a bit of one-to-one with them. So the past questions then, saying again, I'll always give them the question, the answer, and my worked adjustments. The tutorial videos are a bit of work in progress at the moment. For this one, I haven't seemed to have time to put into this question 5, kind of a lot of time put into question 1, especially the sole trader and that. So I need to start working on that. And then the handouts that I have created for them in the form of the booklet and the theory questions as well. So the same thing for the booklet. Hopefully I put the correct one up here. Yeah, so the booklet will have all that information that I've kind of shared with you today. So they'll have the kind of the analysis of the question 5 for part A, part B, and part C. I would have given them the form and the comments, so they have that themselves where they can cut up, or they've got a kind of something to look back to if they kind of forget what the formula is. I've also given them the downloads. This is kind of something that I've taken from, I think there was there was a talk at the very start about strategies for leaving cert business, and kind of this domino game where you can cut these up going across and start, and this is a formula, then they have to match the correct formula with it and put it beside it. And then you've got to return on shareholders' equity, and then if they find that correct one and put it beside it. So at the end, they'll have the name of the formula all the way down along. It's kind of a matching exercise. So kind of giving them a break from writing all the time in the class. And then I will give them the layout for shareholders, one of them done as well, and one for debenture holders as well. So those two kind of, what are the headings for each one? So this is one for your shareholders' point of view, and then this one that we just went through from the debentures point of view. And once again, they came up with their own mnemonics for it to try to remember it. And then I've gone and put all the past questions as well in this document. So once again, I'll print it off and give it to them. So they'll have the question, they'll have the suggested solution and marking scheme. And then if I've done it up, then they'll have my kind of comments on it. I haven't put the workings up on this one because it's not too much different from the workings in the marking scheme itself. And I'll give that out to them. So they'll have a booklet of all the questions and answers that they can use in class for the question as well. And so once again, the teaching style, so explain and demonstrate in class using the analysis handout together, supporting independent, then kind of using the website, using those booklets. So they have everything that they need to do in class themselves. And I try to kind of have a policy of kind of ask two people before you come to me. So kind of a lot of group work goes on in class, a lot of discussion, a lot of talk and that sort of thing. And then this student then, what she says about question 5.
I find question 5 a difficult question due to the large amount of formulas and explanations involved. Mr. Ryan laid out each ratio on an online document. This helped me to separate each working from each other and learn them efficiently. Question 5 is a very difficult question, especially in comparison to all the other accounts. I think a slower explanation of each ratio in the beginning of learning them would help to clarify the exact use of each ratio.
So I think I need to do a bit of work on that in relation to kind of get the difficulty away from it and maybe approach it in a different way with them. But that feedback that she's given there, which is my next section I'm going to move on to, I find it very, very valuable. But before I move on then, Rachel, any questions coming in there for question 5?
You've quite a few. Well, first of all, you've quite a lot of love in the chat for all your resources and how wonderful they are and how thankful people are for a start. So there's one there about how long do you spend on question 5? Do you do many ordinary level questions before you go into higher level questions?
Yeah, so how long I spend, reflecting on question 5, I probably need to spend a little bit more. I usually try to spend maybe 2 to 3 weeks on topics. Okay. That's just my guide at the moment, but I adjust that depending on my classes. I was quite lucky 2 years ago, I had a very bright class, and I just gave them the stuff and they went off and did it. And they asked questions in class. It was very relaxed. This year, the same again. I give them the stuff to go off and to come back. They ask more questions this year. So I'm quite lucky, but just on that feedback from you one there with question 5, I think I need to spend a little bit more on it. Ordinarily, I go straight into higher level questions. I'm lucky enough that I have a higher level class. And what happens is if they're going to drop, they usually drop after the mocks. So 2 years ago, I had one person that dropped down, which was easy enough to manage. This year, I'd say I'll have one person after the mocks that's going to drop again. So I'm lucky on that one that I just go straight into higher level questions.
And then there's somebody here who asked if they could ask you about, I don't know if you want to leave this one till the end, but they asked about scheme of work and what you cover in 5th year and 6th year.
Yeah, so fifth year, the very first thing I do is I go into disposal of fixed assets. And the reason why I do that is that whoever's going to drop will drop fairly quickly. And what I'm left with then are the people who are going to put the time and effort into it. So I kind of go disposal, revaluation, then I kind of go into the question 1s, and then I'll move into something like maybe cash flow and publish accounts.
Okay.
And then I start 5th, 6th year on section 3. Then I do question 5, and then I usually do suspense after that, but I just kind of tailored a little bit towards the mocks where I kind of did my incomplete records and tabular statements. So I have suspense accounts and control accounts to do after the mocks.
Okay.
And then a little bit of tidying up, like spending a class on departmental and maybe doing a little bit on bank reconciliation, that if I've ordinary level students.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And then there's one question there. Thank you. Your resources are amazing. Can we use them? I presume you're okay with people
Of course you
using
can,
them.
yeah. Use away, yeah. And if I put up Word files, change them. I'll go back. It's like a lot of these links are links to PDF, but when I have time, I'll go back and I'll put up the Word files so you can have access to them and change around wherever you want them, and all that, yeah.
Okay, that's all. That's it. At this stage.
Okay. So feedback then, very much on student voice and that sort of stuff. So after a topic, or sometimes halfway through a topic, I'll do one-to-one feedback with them where I give them a question in class and then I'll take them out and have a chat with them. And I usually ask them these 4 questions. So how are you finding accounting? How do you find the way the last topic was taught? Is there anything like done differently in class? And is there anything I can do to support your learning? And I'll ask them all that. And the majority of the time, everything is grand, hunky dory. The odd time, I had one student say, sometimes I take an exam paper and I wouldn't plan it that well. And I just bring in the paper and halfway through the paper, I'd say, yeah, it won't be this hard. All the other ones are easier. And she was just saying, can you not just start with the easier one first? And I was like, fair enough, good point. So that sort of stuff, and they're quite nice about it. The majority of the time, they're usually positive. And then I'll usually get them to fill in a form at the end of term. So just to get their feedback to see if I need to adjust anything in class for the next term. So take their student's name, their class group, their subject. What are you enjoying about accounting this term? How do you find accounting, or what do you find difficult about accounting? What do you think I as a teacher can do to help your progress? What do you think you can do to improve your progress in accounting? Is there anything stopping you from learning at the moment? And what are you hoping to achieve in your summer grade? This stuff that I get from them, I'll use them then to write my reports. So especially on Christmas time, I'll have valuable stuff there of what they're finding well and what they're finding difficult. What I find at the moment with the masks is I don't know my students as well as I did previously. So this sort of stuff to write down in a report, even to use as part of a parent-teacher meeting, kind of makes me sound like I know their daughter or in the class a little bit more. That's one for the end of term. And then I do one then at the end of the year, kind of an evaluation of the course, just for herself then as well. So what's the name of the subject? So the teacher explains where the class is going. They'll have 4 options. The teacher explains material clearly. They'll have 4 options. The teacher showed genuine interest in the student's ability, and if they're having difficulty, teacher encourages students to ask questions and give answers. The teacher adjusts the pace of the class to the student's level of understanding. Their teacher is well prepared, treat the students with respect. They're effective and help them learn. What suggestions would you give to improve their teacher's teaching? Are there any different teaching methods you'd like to be introduced? Is there anything you'd like to say in relation to the subject? Did you enjoy the term? If you selected no, why? And the person who's more responsible for what I learn is myself. So I kind of ask the questions for them. And then I kind of have an idea of what I need to do to change the class then for the next year, to change my teaching style on the next year from that feedback. I found that feedback really valuable for parent-teacher meetings and then for writing up end of term reports. And I kind of use that in all my classes. I'd have an end of chapter one as well for business and that, not so much with accounting. And then just the student's opinion then on feedback.
The feedback sessions are really helpful for explaining exactly what we find difficult and how we need to address it. It allows me to voice my concerns with the things that I'm finding difficult.
And that's it done then.
So Someone has just asked you there, would you be willing to share the feedback forms?
Yeah, I
Jason?
actually have those feedback forms. So if they go into in here, so if they
Yeah.
click in, they can duplicate it. So see up here
Okay.
at the top, duplicate,
Yeah.
they can duplicate that form now. It's done in Microsoft Office, so I don't know if someone has Google or whatever, but you can still have access and use the questions there if you want to, or whatever.
You could copy it fairly easily into a Google
Yeah.
Doc anyway if you
Yeah.
wanted to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we did you say that was that was it?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's an awful lot. Jason, the love for you in the chat is unbelievable. You need to take a few minutes before we log out to read the chat. There are a couple of questions around marking schemes, and before I go to them, I'm just going to turn off the recording, and if there's anybody who wants to come in, I think I'm probably leaving it to an open discussion. I'm just going to stop the recording there.